Welcome to lesson 4 in this course, and this time I will show you how you can change the center from the corner, the left lower corner, into the center, the real center of this plane, and also how you then can mirror so the left and the right and the up and down will be the same, which you will use many times if you're doing like tiles and stuff like that with only the math nodes. So we use the texture coordinate as usual, and we can put in a separate XYZ. So press Shift A, go to converter, and there you will find your separate XYZ. So put that in and make some space between the texture coordinate and the separate XYZ, because we are going to use some vector math in this case. You can take the X into the surface, so you see something here, and you can take the UV into the vector for the separate XYZ. And now you can see you have the dark line here. And that dark line, that means that it's 0 here and it's 1 here. What I would like to do in this lesson is like moving the 0 to here instead. And how I can do that would be to like subtract things, because this is, as I said, 0 and this is 1, and if I move the 0 towards right, it would automatically become a lot of negative numbers here, and that is what I want. So in the end I would like to have like -1 here and 1 positive here, like you had in the object output of the texture coordinate. So to do that I need something to subtract this with, and I will put it in here. So Shift A, converter and vector math, and I put in and subtract. Now I can change this. So if I move that out to like 0.5, you will get the center here exactly as I said, and you will do that in both the axes. So also do that for Y, even if you can't see that. You can do it when I change here. You can see that it's changed here as well for the Y axis. So now we have it in both directions, and it looks almost okay. But if I subtract this with 0.5, what will I then get in the ends? Well, I will get 0.5 in a negative value here and 0.5 in a positive value here. I would like to have 0 and 1, or I would like to have at least -1 here and a +1 here as a start. So to do that I should multiply this by 2, because then I will transform the 0.5 into 1. So I take this one and just press Shift D, move it here, put in a multiply, and change this into 2, like that. And when I do that, now you can see it's a clear white in here, and that is because the end here is 1, it's not 0.5, and that is much easier to calculate things with in the future. So it's much better to have it with this multiplier here, so we really get -1 and a +1. But the thing with this setup is often that we would like to mirror stuff. So to have it really good, it would be perfect if we had like 0 in the center, and then we had 1 here, 1 here, and so on. So it's not -1 but a +1 on both sides. So then the question is how to do that. Well, then we have to introduce another math node that we have not used before, and that is the absolute. And absolute will take away the negative and replace it with the positive. So if you have a -1, it will be 1. And we can put it in right after the multiply. So we can just take Shift D to copy this one, and we change this into absolute, which you can find here on the right. And when you change that, you now have 1 here, and you have 1 here. And of course you have the same in the y direction. So you have 1 here and 1 at the top. You can see it both by doing some masking here, as we learned before. So let's say that we put in a math node here, and we can put in something like maximum or minimum to show that. And now you can see it's some grayness here because we don't work with 0 and 1, we work with grayscale, so we have 0.5 and so on. But you can see here that we have a very fine black cross in the center, and then it goes out. So now everything is mirrored. And we can use that together with any texture we want to from here. So if I put in a texture by pressing Shift A, texture, and let's say we use the magic texture, for instance, because that's really easy to see. Then you put that absolute into the vector for the magic texture, and you can put that into the material output, and suddenly you see that it's mirrored on all directions. And with things like noise or Musgrave, you can do really nice stuff by just using this. So if I take that away as I did, and then add a Musgrave texture instead, and just we can put that to 2D because we're working with 2-dimensional vector. We only work with 2 numbers, not 3 numbers, so it's more clear to use 2D in that case. And put that into the surface here. You can see the same thing, that it's like reflecting or mirroring stuff here. So if I change the scale, you see it's going in the same direction for all. So it's like going from the center and outwards like that. So it's really good. And if you want to make a very simple tile out of this, then you would like to have it a little bit different, because now you have the cross in the center, and what you would like to do is to have a bright center and like the edges out here to make a square. And that is rather easy to do as well if you think a little bit about it. If I just take like this, then you have just the x-axis and we discuss it. So we have 1 here, we have 0 here, and we have 1 here. How can this be 0 and this be 1 and this be 0? That is the question. Well, I think it would be just by subtracting with 1, because if I subtract with 1, so 1 subtracted with 1, that would be 0. But 1 subtracting with 0 will be 1, so that will inverse everything. So all we have to do really is to put in subtract here as well. We can just take that one, Shift D, put it here, and put the absolute in the bottom, because here we would like to have 1 and here we would like to have 1. Because now we take a value of 1 and then we subtract it with the value we get out, which will in that case inverse everything. So if now I use the separate and then put in the x and y to the minimum and put that to the material output, you can now see that we get the edges in the edges where the edges should be instead of the center. So we have it in the very bright in the center, and then we have the dark parts in the outer regions, exactly as it should be. So I think what you should do now is just learn this little formula right from here, because you will use it over and over and over again. And I will in the next lesson go through how you can change this into real tile, because now it's more like a pyramid, and we would like it to be more, like a tile, and also put in some scale and so on. But this is the formula to change the UV, so you get it in the center like that, and then get all the dark edges on the outside and the bright here, by just using subtract, multiply, take away the negative using the absolute, and then just invert it, and then you have it. Okay, see you in the next chapter, just bye for now.